Hello and welcome to Financial Technology Frontiers. And this is the insurance conversation, a coffee share that we are going to have with an incredible leader in the world of insurance. Today, I am going to talk to Mr. Omari Arons Martin, who is a very diversified personality who has come from the field of communications, where he started his career, to that of insurance, and spiritually he is such a well blended person who is taken pastoral education, and from there he has also done a lot of work in skill building and taking the careers of people in the banking insurance sector to newer heights. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Omari Arons Martin, the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Director of National African American Insurance Association. Welcome to the show, Omari.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, Omari. I just wanted to highlight a little bit about how the National African American Insurance Association has really come up in the past few years, and how you are creating a stronger ecosystem for the fraternity of insurance leaders, especially with people of color, to come to the next level.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you how we got started. The National African American Insurance Association has been around for 27 years, and we were founded, and we go by NAAIA, our acronym. We were founded 27 years ago by an independent agent whose manager told him right as soon as he started his career out of college that this industry is all about relationships and it's all about getting to know people. And it's also important to have continuous learning. And so he encouraged them to go to find professional associations, to find conferences, to find day-long forums. And as he was going to a number of those conferences and to association meetings, he was looking around the room and he wasn't seeing many people of color, and he was not seeing Blacks and African Americans in the room. And he was going, there's got to be more than just me in this industry. Fortunately, he was correct. And so over a course of time, he's identified a few folks. They started seeing each other at conferences. Then it became an each one, bring someone else to the table conversation. And then in 1997, they formalized the foundation of NAAIA. And so we have grown into the organization that we are today. We now have 2,700 members. We have 12,000 LinkedIn followers. My director of marketing comms told me yesterday we just crossed 12,000, which is remarkable because when I started as the executive director in June of 2022, we had just over 1,000 people following us on our LinkedIn account. So in 2 years, we've had tremendous growth. And we have 24 chapters spread across the United States with plans for us to be able to add more. And one of the primary things that we do is professional development. We know from our own data, research studies that we've published, that where Blacks and African Americans and professionals of color tend to sit inside of organizations is at a level where they are not receiving higher level management, leadership training and development, executive coaching, things like executive presence, in addition to upskilling beyond the job where they are now. And so NAAIA provides a lens for our members through our webinar series, through regional forums, through virtual leadership summits that we hold, and from our national conference, where we are really bringing all of the emerging trends, what's happening now and what's happening in the future, right to our members so that they have that knowledge and they're able to speak intelligently and confidently about what's happening in our industry and how they can contribute.
Superb. I think that is a great impact initiative to accelerate the or elevate people from the mid and lower management to the top management. And that is what is exactly required in this kind of push. So, from your perspective, what are some of the key bottlenecks that have been really faced by the sector? Okay. And how are you working around these bottlenecks by creating ecosystem strength of putting together the required tools and strategies to make it possible?
Yeah. The first thing that we think about, particularly when it comes to communities of color and economically disadvantaged communities, and where we see economically disadvantaged communities that are also communities of color, right? And there's kind of a magic formula of a history of exclusion and a lack of access, and a lack of sharing of information. And so, from a historical perspective, when we think about Blacks and African Americans, particularly from a United States context, where we have what we've experienced historically is communities who have paid into insurance policies that were really not sufficient for providing the type of coverage that was actually needed. We've seen being sent and offered burial insurance as opposed to a full-scale life insurance policy that enables you to pass generational wealth to protect your assets, so that your children and your children's children and their children will be able to reap the rewards that you've worked hard for in life. And we've seen that not just in insurance, but also in the financial services sector, where there's a lack of banks, actual banking institution, not just ATMs, not payday loans, not check cashing, but actual bank branches that are getting to know the members of the community. And so when we think about that as a foundation, we know that this lack of access does not lead people to use insurance careers, insurance tools and products and services that can add value to their lives and also support generations coming after them. And it does not lend itself to thinking about insurance or financial services as a whole as a career or industry of choice for Blacks and African Americans. And so that is the place in which we start. We start there to say we need to get information into the hands of our community to make sure that they know that this sector is growing, that it's thriving, that it touches everything, and that no matter what career field you're interested in, if you're human resources or marketing or finance or accounting or IT, you can have a very successful and lucrative career in the insurance sector. And so breaking down that access barrier is the first thing that we work on. And then the second barrier that we work on is when people are in the industry, we notice from a data standpoint that where we tend to get stuck is in entry level or first or second level manager roles. And so it's not moving people into senior management, into executive leadership, into C-suite. And it's really important, as we've seen through a number of stories across multiple industries, for the rooms where decisions are being made to have the perspective of your entire customer base. And so we know that in order for the industry to be successful and continue to grow and thrive, that it can't leave communities of color behind, and that we have to be in those rooms, we have to be at those tables, we have to be able to share our perspectives. And so we work with a number of our partners. We have 81 insurance companies and organizations that are in our partner network. And we work with them on their talent management planning and succession planning and recruitment and the value proposition of helping people to see insurance as an industry and a career of choice.
Super. That's a great encapsulation of how you're building up this ecosystem. One of the most important thing in this sector is the role of technology. Okay. And that is really shaping up the way the entire ecosystem is being built as well. How are you trying to bring more and more technology perspectives into this ecosystem of insurance? And what kind of technology initiatives is NAAIA undertaking to empower the people?
Yeah, there certainly, I would say, has been a lot of fear around artificial intelligence and the use case of that. And we have seen that that's something that's been consistent and not exclusive to the Black and African American community, not exclusive to communities of color. But even as we think about the industrial age and the manufacturing age, right, there was a notion that machines are going to take your job as a human being, right? Technology is going to displace you. And there is some truth to that. The other side of that story, however, is how do we leverage and embrace technology? Because it also creates new jobs. And if we are appropriately upskilled and we are staying on top of trends, then there's no reason that our jobs can't shift and change and transform in terms of embracing the technology. And so that's one of the messages that we put out to our membership and to the public that follows us, is that we don't need to fear technology. We need to learn what is happening, what are insurtechs, what are fintechs, what are examples of them that we use. And we are doing this not just with professionals who are currently in the field, but we are also doing it with students, college students that are part of our case competition as well. So we have had case studies that the students are working on that deal with generative AI. They deal with insurance products being sold at point of sale when you're getting other products, right? And we've seen some great examples with car purchases as an example of being able to include it in your monthly car note. The auto insurance is already rolled in. We see that with phones and other technology that you can buy insurance plans. And so we are talking to our public and our members who are also consumers that you're already dealing in this space. You're actually already very well acquainted with this space. You're playing in this space, but now you have the opportunity to be an owner in this space as well and to help shape the field, not just be a consumer of others who are shaping the field.
Interesting. And I think that is a great perspective because ultimately technology is the source where everyone has to have their say in it and everyone has to be updated into the latest into the technology as well.
Absolutely.
Great. And what are the kind of support that you have been looking up from the ecosystem, not just you building it, but from the government or from the insurance sector to help you to build up a robust ecosystem grounds up and keep empowering the people? What kind of support do you generally get from the people, and what are you looking out for?
Yeah, there's really three kinds of support, I would say. One is purely financial, right? And so through partnerships and sponsorships, um, organizations allow us as a professional association to build our staff and to add more programs. And so as we know, it costs money to put on conferences. It costs money to do a virtual leadership summit. It costs money to have the engineers and the marketing folks who can take a video conversation like this one and turn it into a really great piece of media that's accessible for people. So financial support is key. Second to that, I would say, is human capital support. And it is bringing the experts to the table. And so in our partner network, we have leading organizations in really every field and every aspect of the insurance industry. And so we are often asking our partner network, who are thought leaders, subject matter experts within your organization who you would put on a webinar, that you'd put on a panel discussion, that you would send for a main stage plenary to talk about the work that they're doing and to be able to share their knowledge and perspective. And so it comes across more as peer-to-peer sharing and learning than a formalized training program that is a top-down approach. And that enables people to really interact with it in a different way, in a way that's not threatening or scary, but very conversational, just like we're having a conversation, same as you would if you were at a cocktail party or you were sitting next to someone at a training. And so that conversational approach is key. And then the third and the last type of support that we look for, we are organized as a 501c6 not-for-profit organization. And so it limits our ability. We have to be really intentional about when we do advocacy and lobbying efforts. And fortunately, we have a number of partners who don't have those same governmental restrictions in the lobbying space. And they do a great job of keeping us updated on legislation and what is before Congress and what's before state houses. And so we are able to tap into them and their network and their expertise as well, and be a subject matter expert on our community and our members for them. And so they're frequently in touch with us about what is the perspective here? How will this particular piece of legislation, if it goes this way, is that going to have a positive effect on the Black community? Will that have an adverse effect on the Black community? Let's talk about that. And so we're very fortunate that we have a number of lobbying and advocacy partners who are really leading that work, and that we are in their advisory network to make sure that the voices and the perspectives of Blacks and African Americans is in the room, even when officially as an organization, NAAIA is not.
Superb. I think that is quite an interesting perspective of looking into how to build up an overall well-rounded organization. You make the best use out of even the for-profit organization by making some of your partners, and at the same time, sticking to your objectives and making sure that the advocacy is done and you are represented well in the sector. So, and what are the global aspirations of NAIA? Is it only restricted to the US, or are you expanding to the people of color in different parts of the world? Because this is not just one country that matters to.
Absolutely. And I'll say, right where you are, there's an organization called the Canadian Association of Black Insurance Professionals that is, I think, now entering its third year. And we've been in frequent conversation and partnership with KBIP, and they're a wonderful organization. And so, our plan is not to take over KBIP, but to find ways for their members to be able to enjoy the benefits of being a NAIA member, and for our members to be able to enjoy the benefits of being a KBIP member as well, particularly as we see more professionals who are on global assignments. And so they're in Toronto, they're in Montreal, they're in New York, they're in Chicago, they're in Los Angeles. And we want to be a home for each other's members wherever we travel. I'm going to London in a couple of weeks, and there's an organization in London called Equity, which used to be the ACIN, the Afro-Caribbean Insurance Network. We're connected with them, and it's the same thing. While I'm there, there's a couple of events that are going to be happening that I'll get the chance to hang out and meet members there and to learn from their experts, right? And so one of our aspirations is really building this global network of people of color organizations. And so there's work already underway in the UK, there's work underway in Canada, and there is some work that is also forming in the Bahamas and in the Caribbean as well. And we've had a few members on the African continent that have connected in Ghana and Nigeria in particular, and South Africa. And so there is a global play at work here as well, in terms of what is the shared conversation around Blackness in the insurance industry as we continue to grow in our own knowledge. We're only 27. And as other organizations are getting started, what can we share about our learnings, mistakes that we've made, successes that we've had that enable them to move faster than they could without that knowledge? And then what are the things that they're doing right from the start very well that we can learn from and incorporate into how we're operating?
Super. I think that's quite inspiring. And the kind of work that you have already done with the Canadian Association, the advantage is it is like a club, You are the member of one club, you go to the other club and you get the benefits of the club, and the club members, the club managements manage the benefits accordingly. I think a lot can be done even in the African subcontinent, and especially with our kind of ecosystems. We work with the African Fintech Association, which also is affiliated to certain insurance association of blacks in the African market. We can probably try to see how we can leverage some of these kind of networks. There is also a strong lobby in Middle East, in Dubai,
Yes.
and some of these countries for African. Let us try to see how we can explore these engagements together. What is the future for NAIA now? With all this global aspiration, with your existing strength, how do you see the future?
Yeah, where we just came back from our national conference, and we had 1,000 attendees with us in New Orleans. And my resounding message for folks in our organization, and that what I'm telling people, is that NAIA's future is very bright. We have been in the middle of an unprecedented growth rate in our history since 2019. We've been growing between 23 and 25% year over year, which has been very exciting. And we have had to make significant adjustments to our infrastructure to be able to accommodate that growth. And we are now poised and really ready for the growth that we see coming ahead. We see us being able to do more programs, to be able to engage more partners and welcome them into our partner network. We see more employees having access to our development activities. We're launching a mentorship program next year. So there's a lot of activity.
Super.
And the key thing for us is that we're not just having activity for the sake of having activity. We are really after that movement, that elevation, that acceleration that you mentioned earlier. We want to see that happen for people in their careers and really stepping into very senior leadership roles in the industry and being equitably represented at senior leadership and C-suite levels across the industry. So we believe we are doing all the right things that we need to do in order to help accelerate that progress and elevate individuals. And so we're very, very excited about NAAIA's future.
Excellent. Wish you all the best in a very, very successful and an elevated future for NAAIA. And as a media and an ecosystem to promote financial services and the ecosystem, we are always standing by you to see whatever way we can collaborate and try to take your growth to the next level. Thank you very much, Omari, for being a part of it.
Absolutely. Same here. Thank you for having me.